Welcome to the love-infused ravings of Bach. The wilds of presence. If we say something that hurts someone and we can tell, we see it, we feel it. It doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter if we think it's true or it doesn't matter. We apologize. We make it right unconditionally. We want to be free. We want the people we know to be free. Let them be them. Let them be free of your story about them. What a great gift to both of you. But you want to be free. I think everyone wants to be free. Everyone knows who they are at the deepest level. Everybody knows it's everybody. How could you not? In some way, in some form, at some level, you know it. How could you not? Maybe because it's just so obvious. It's the one thing you've always known. That deepest sense of yourself, sense of presence, that's always been the same and fresh, like I've said before. That's me. That's the only constant in my life. That's where being quiet comes in, We have to be quiet to notice this. Obviously, inner quiet, but they're both important. And I don't know the rules. I don't know. I mean, what I know is I don't know the rules. I have no idea if there are rules. I have no idea. But I know that me-ness, that sense of myself, that awakeness, that presence, beingness. Consciousness is a funny one, It sounds it's a little high and mighty sometimes, but I love it too. You have to be still. Everyone wants to stop. You hear everyone saying it in one form or another. You can almost boil that down to the main complaint, but so genuine, right? That comes from such a genuine place. I just want to stop. Yeah, and I think if you ask a lot of people and they were willing to tell you, they would say it in some form where I just want to stop. And it's that relentless mind, the relentless mind trying to understand life. And it can't. It can never understand life. Just want to see if I can cap this off for now. I'm feeling like the need, if I'm going to be sharing this, to sort of come down to some kind of end to this. As I say that, it makes me laugh. Like I'm giving some prepared speech that has had an arc to it or something, and now it needs to wind up. That kind of strikes me as like one of the key issues that we suffer from is wanting things to kind of wrap up, and have an explanation. We want everything to have an explanation. There has to be a reason that everything happens. We just can't imagine that it could be a little dicier, like it could be much more unknown, completely unknown. But we can't expect anyone to let go into that, right? I mean, what a thing to ask of any of us. I mean, you have to really want to know. gosh, what else is there that's more fascinating? I mean, come on. What could be more fascinating than the nature of our being? That question we all ask ourselves at some point in our lives, like, who am I? But, or I don't know who I am, however we phrase it to ourselves. And I'm trying to find myself, and I'm trying to become someone. I'm trying to, grow into myself, mature, become a man, all these things, basically saying the same thing, like, who am I? And such a beautiful motivation, but crazy making, right? I mean, not that notion, but just this mind version of who we think we are is crazy. It feels crazy if we're honest with ourselves. I mean, everyone I talk to seems crazy to me, and I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean that in just like that's just we all seem crazy. I mean, obviously, there's people who have made whatever level of transition maybe out of thought and into their deeper sense of themselves, the sanity of ourselves, that quiet, still awareness that's just sane. I mean, that's even saying too much. It's not anything, just quiet and still and aware and in love. But living just at the level of mind, we're crazy. And like I said, that's just all the people we know in our lives. I mean, we don't have to look any further than ourselves, really. Of course, I'm not giving myself a break at all. First, we know that in ourselves. We can be honest with ourselves. But I think certainly the clearer I've become, the crazier everyone else seems to me, but it's not in a bad way. I don't think of them as me, as saner, and them as crazier. Just I can hear I can hear their version of insanity. I have my own version of insanity, but you can start to hear where people and it's not that hard, right? We know that about the people that we know a lot and well and love, that we know the places that they struggle, just as they know the places that we struggle. It's no secret to anyone, really. When we're following the narrative of our lives, when we're believing the story of our lives, we're crazy. It's just based on thinking, on thoughts. It's based on thoughts about our lives. It's not based on our lives. It's not based on who we are. It's based on the thoughts about our lives, the stories about our lives. And it's like we're just living this story, we're just when we're in thought, but there's so much of the time if we start to notice that we're not in thought. I mean, again, that's a big spectrum and it can shift in us, obviously, from being completely lost in thought to having a very quiet mind for long stretches. And I imagine, and I don't know, but I'm imagining the great beauties like Ramana, that their mind was always still. When you read what they wrote, it's sort of very clear that that's true, that there was no more thinking left, that whole, what they call the knot of the ego had been severed, and there was just this still presence, and communication might happen, but that doesn't require thought, as we're talking about. So presence isn't crazy. It's why presence is wild, but not crazy. Just to use a couple words, right? It's got that wild animal quality to it that you can't tame it. It's it's just its own thing. It just is. But when we let go into that, it doesn't feel crazy at all. It's just the stories that come up while we're present that start to feed the energies of those stories. With the underlying theme, there's something wrong. That's what makes us feel crazy. not the wilds of presence, but to open to it fully, right? And we start to feel the craziness in ourselves. And we start to open more and more into presence as presence, letting go of everything as often as we can, as much as we can. Right? But everything's allowed in presence. And so we start to feel more subtle things arising. Of course, everything's allowed in presence. Presence can't stop presence or control presence. Does that one make any sense? like hmm, presence just is, yeah. So we find this as often as we can. We find this as often as we can in our lives, however. And when we recognize it, it starts to become more and more familiar when all of a sudden it is graced to us when it's grace, right? Every time, like all of a sudden we find ourselves still, we find ourselves in that space of presence. And we didn't do it, it just all of a sudden came to be, revealed itself. And we start to we start to trust that more and more. So it becomes so familiar, so obvious, so delicious and sweet and full, whole. We know it's only that sort of chaotic energy in us, that resistance in us that still needs to be play out, that still needs to be released in just by letting go. Or whatever process, I don't know. Who am I? I don't understand why or how things are let go, really. Right? Always coming back to that understanding that I don't know anything but now. I don't know anything but myself as now. But I don't know anything about now. I just know myself as now, but I don't know anything about it.